What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be going over 10 different things that you may have missed in Star Wars Squadrons. The majority of these are going to be from the campaign, certain little Easter eggs and stuff like that that were scattered throughout the story, so just be aware that there may be some small spoilers in here, although there's definitely no like proper story spoilers or anything like that, but there are also some that are to do with multiplayer or even to do with the menus and stuff like that as well, so they're not all focused on the campaign. Now, just quickly, I've recently checked the analytics and noticed that over 70% of the views on the channel are from those of you who aren't actually subscribed to the channel. So if you're not subbed and you are looking for some more Star Wars gaming content, then I would really appreciate it if you guys could hit that subscribe button and help us on the way to that big 100,000 subscriber milestone. But anyway, with that out of the way, let's get stuck right into it. So the first thing that you may have missed is actually in the menus, and it is to do with the stat screen. I heard a lot of people complaining about the stats, saying that there's not really enough and that they should have added more, but trust me, there are way more stats available than you probably know about. From the very main menu, if you head to the social tab that you can see up in the top left, from there you can click on your own profile, and once you do, you're going to be able to see pretty much every single stat that you could possibly think of. You can see not only all of those different stats, but they're also separated for each game mode as well, so there's a lot more of a stat screen than any of us ever thought. Moving on, the next thing that you may have missed is actually a nod to another relatively well-known Rebel squadron known as Alphabet Squadron. For those who don't know, Alphabet Squadron were introduced to us through a novel called Alphabet Squadron, and in a way they have a fairly similar storyline to Vanguard Squadron. At the end of the second mission in the campaign, after you attack the Star Destroyer on Yavin in order to try and steal it, if you talk to Gunny right after you get back into the hangar before moving on to the next briefing, you can actually hear her mention Alphabet Squadron, throwing a little bit of banter their way just as a true Rebel should.
At least Wedge picked the right team for the job, huh? Those slackers in Alphabet Squadron would still be fapping around at Yavin.
Next up, this is another pretty small little Easter egg, but it is something that I found to be a cool little piece of lore that we learn throughout the game. In your first interaction with Frisk, he briefly goes into a bit of his backstory, mentioning that he hasn't always been a part of the Rebellion, now known as the New Republic obviously, and that he originally came from essentially what you might call working with some shady people, hunting down antiques and a bunch of stuff like that, and then selling them off for what I'd imagine would be a lot of credits. He then mentions that he stopped, however, once he got a death mark, better known as a bounty on his head, because he actually sold a fake painting that he didn't actually know was fake. Now, for those of you who know anything about Thrawn, you'll know that he learned about his enemies and their culture by studying artwork from their homeworld, and art is obviously very closely tied to Thrawn through both the legends and canon representations of his character. And funnily enough, we find out that Frisk got his death mark from either Thrawn or someone close to Thrawn, as the fake artwork that he sold was actually sold to an Imperial governor, who then actually showed it off to Thrawn, who could tell it was fake. Definitely an awesome little tie-in there.
How was I supposed to know that painting was fake, huh? Or that the Imperial Governor was gonna show it off to Admiral Thrawn?
Moving on, the next thing that you may have actually missed is from multiplayer, and this one is such a tiny little detail, but it is an awesome detail nonetheless. When you're playing as the Imperials and you're in the pre-round meeting where you sort of stand around that holo table, if you actually do the wave emote to any of the stormtroopers guarding the bridge, they will actually wave back to you, which I thought was such an amazing touch for the developers to put in there. And a big shout out to Bombastic for showing me this one on Twitter, because I would have never figured that one out for myself. Next up, we have another very small little Easter egg from the campaign, but this one is also pretty cool because it does tie in with another Star Wars game, that being Jedi Fallen Order. After the third mission, when you first get to the Nadiri dockyards where Project Starhawk is, in that small intro cinematic you can actually see the New Republic cutting a Star Destroyer apart with the same machine that was used for the exact same thing in the first mission of Fallen Order. These machines are, and wait for it because this is very original, known as ship cutters, and like I said, in the very first mission of Fallen Order where we're on Bracca playing as Cal Kestis, we see the Empire using these to sort of cut down the old Venators to gather resources for their new Imperial Star Destroyers. And then now in Squadrons, they're also being used for the exact same thing, this time with the roles reversed, as obviously now it's the New Republic using them for the Starhawk. These had only been seen previously in Fallen Order prior to Squadrons coming out, so I thought that was a pretty cool touch that Motive sort of made it a bit of a nod to Respawn and somewhat tied the games together, which is what I think we all love about Star Wars, those ties between all the different types of media. Moving on, the next thing that you may have missed is kind of a two-parter actually. Firstly, if you just go into your friends list and click on someone's name, if they are in a game, you can actually spectate the game and watch the entire thing even if the lobby is full. Now, the part about this that I love is that when you're spectating and it's still the pre-round lobby, you can actually see the players in the game through the eyes of the people standing in the room. For example, if you're spectating the New Republic, then you'll see them through the eyes of Ardo, and if you're spectating the Empire, then you'll see them through the eyes of the Imperial tactician by the name of LT514. And I thought that was another really cool little touch, as it actually makes sense since those would be the ones spectating the battle if it were real life. Next up, we have another little Easter egg which actually ties into one of the first ones that I mentioned about Alphabet Squadron, as well as actually tying into Battlefront 2. In one of your first conversations with Von Reg, she starts talking about why Carol is so fixated on Vanguard Squadron, and the reason for that being her hatred for Lyndon Javes after he obviously defected from the Empire. She then actually goes on to mention that she hates traitors as well, saying nothing motivates like betrayal, and that there are always more traitors out there, before she actually lists off Iden Versio and Erika Quell.
Iden Versio, Erika Quell, Lyndon Javes.
We all know who Iden is. She's one of the more well-known traitors to the Empire in recent history, but if you don't know who Erika Quell is, she's actually the leader of Alphabet Squadron that I mentioned earlier, and I found this one to be pretty awesome because I'm actually currently halfway through reading Alphabet Squadron, and no joke, I found this Easter egg maybe like 2 days after I read that she defected in the book, so I personally found this one to be pretty awesome. The timing was definitely very perfect. Moving on, another thing that you may have missed, which I'll be honest, I think most people probably would have seen, as we're all nerds and we all love our Clone Wars lore, but there's actually a destroyed Venator in the Xavian Abyss, both in the campaign and in multiplayer as well. Obviously, the Xavian Abyss is a really dangerous place, and you can just tell that from what we see of it in the game. And so obviously there's some sort of backstory here that we don't know about yet, where possibly a heap of clones had to make their way through the Abyss as well, and unfortunately by the looks of it, they were anything but successful. This one is definitely another very small detail, but I did not expect to see any Clone Wars era content in this game. So the fact that one of the maps has a Venator in it is a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Next up, and this is another one that I think a lot of us Star Wars nerds are going to love, is that Frisk, the Trandoshan character from the New Republic, is actually voiced by James Arnold Taylor. For those who don't know who that is, James Arnold Taylor is the voice behind Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars, as well as actually Plo Koon too, and he does an awesome job of hiding it in Frisk's voice, alongside obviously some editing to add that Trandoshan touch. But now that I've said it, you'll definitely be able to hear a hint of Obi-Wan in Frisk's voice. Definitely pretty awesome to get some more James Arnold Taylor content in Star Wars.
For credits, of course. It's the only way I'm gonna learn, right?
Now, last on the list is one that I really did not expect to see. Now, for those who haven't seen it, which I'd imagine is at least 99.9% of you, because let's be honest, no one ever really looks at the credits, but my name, along with all of the other game changers, is actually at the very end of the credits in this game. That is so crazy for me to actually think about. I can forever say that my name is in an official canon piece of Star Wars content. That is something that I can tell my children and grandchildren about one day, and although I had absolutely no part in helping with the game or anything like that, and I feel like it's kind of not really deserved, it is such an honor to be able to still somehow have my name in those credits. That would not at all be possible without all of you guys supporting me throughout the last 2 and a bit years of doing this. Never in a million years did I think that that would be possible, and I cannot thank you guys enough for helping me along the way in getting to the point that I am. At the end of the day, the channel would be absolutely nothing without you guys. Let me know down in the comments which of these little Easter eggs you guys like the most, and if there was anything that you think I missed, then definitely let us all know down below as well. That is going to do it for this one though, guys. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you are new, then consider subscribing to the channel with those notifications on. Thank you all so much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.
Crush them! Make them suffer!